just want to thank your family again for sharing Kelvin with us. And you've heard firsthand testimony on the impacts he's had on us. Kelvin has saved constant lives. When we think of police officers saving lives, we think of going and burning buildings or CPR, but just think of the lives that he has touched early in his career. And you heard that testimony here today firsthand. So at this time, let's give a big hand for the guest of honor.
Since I'm the last one, and I'm gonna do all that stuff, I'm gonna relax on the next for a second. Y'all don't mind. Everybody good? Wow. It's something, isn't it? Bittersweet. I can keep on and on with my job. I'm 52 years old, able to retire. Tough decision that I made. Real tough. Because I love what I do. Love what I do. First of all, for all those accolades, I appreciate it. When I started this job, that's what God's plan was. I didn't know it for a little while, and I'll get to that point in a minute. But I just want to thank my family. And just like you stood up for me, please stand up for them and get up a hand because I feel big right here. I really could. I worked so hard to make an impact in the community, to make an impact in the police department. It wasn't easy. When I first started off, my vision in life from day one was probably being a police officer in little old Oxford, North Carolina. Where's Oxford? I get that question all the time. It's on the other side of Durham, on the other side of Raleigh, north of those locations. I joined the Explorer in little Oxford, probably had about 6 officers, and I was the 7th one, I guess. I didn't do that until I was 12. But I had those visions way back then. My real vision back then was being a highway patrolman. That's what I really wanted to do. Nah, I can't ride on the highway. I figured that out once I got older. Ride in the hallway. And for people in law enforcement, we know how troopers are. They're very stern, but they got a reason to be, because they're out there on the street by themselves. They're their own protector. Us in local law enforcement, we got backup right next to us. So we don't have to be as stern as they do. So that's why they don't smile a lot. But giving back to a community, I couldn't do it as a trooper. I had to do it as a law enforcement officer, a local police officer. That's my passion, that's my goal. After I finished high school, I still had that passion. I graduated at 17, ready to be a police officer, but couldn't. So I thought about firefighting. Nah, they won't do it. I didn't no burning buildings, I don't think. So I had to occupy my time because I knew that 21 was the time for me to be that officer. So I had to go to college to buy time because my dad and my mom, and I appreciate you, Dad. Wish my mom was here to see this day, but time changes. I appreciate you for pushing me to get to where I am today. Because if it wasn't for you pushing me, I might not never be standing here today. Reason I say that because he was an influence on me going to college, because the first time I left home, I went to school. The first weekend I was back home. Come Monday morning, I was laying in the bed. He comes in and say, "Hey, what you doing in here?" I'm sleeping. I ain't got school. What you mean you ain't got school? So he calls the school, Federal State University, and said, "Well, my son back home, what's the problem?" Well, he's supposed to be in class. They should have never said that. Because I think I got loaded back in the car and I think I was going back up 85, back to Federal State University. And because of his determination on making me great, I graduated in 4 years. Because I had to go to summer school, so I got tired of coming home. So I got all that out of the way. And I appreciate you for that, because if it wasn't for you, it wouldn't be me. After that, I graduated from college, and I still wasn't getting a job. So I had to apply. So to make me more marketable, I said, let me go to basic law enforcement training. And I did, sponsored by the Fayetteville Police Department. They put me through, paid for my sponsorship. And after they paid for my sponsorship, they was hiring. Wow, they're hiring. Let me apply, because they sponsored me. I'm a shoe-in. And you're not gonna believe this. Some people may know it, some people don't. My training coordinator for BLET was ex-drill sergeant for the 82nd Airborne. So I'm sitting across the table just like this, facing 3 folks, and he was one of them sitting me dead in my face, and when they asked questions, I was more, if you know me, I don't talk a lot. And I talk quiet sometimes until you piss me off. Get my voice raised. But that's not very often, is it? Right? But as I was sitting there, and I dropped the mic for a reason, because I was sitting there and answering those questions, and I wasn't answering loud enough. A little timid, a little nervous, a little scared, to be honest, because my hands were sweating. So I was answering questions like that. So after the interview was over, he looked me in my face and said, well, son, you ain't got what it takes to be a police officer. And set me out the door. Broke my heart. Hurt my spirits. Maybe I ain't got what it takes to be a police officer. So I went back home and I started thinking about it. He's not going to determine my future. I think that determination is key to making it. So I went for another interview in Raleigh. I guess I'm going to listen to myself because I didn't get down here. So I came back and I'm still determined to be a police officer, because that's not going to stop me and that's not going to determine my future. So I went to good old city of Wilmington. They're the next one to call. Well, let me step back for a second. The first one to call was Pope Newsom and Robert. So I was a decoration officer, so I would be something. But Wilmington called. I finished the interview up there. I think I just about had that job when I interviewed here in Wilmington. Wilmington offered me a job, and I've been here ever since. Great place to work, believe it or not. Because if it wasn't for the city of Wilmington, Wilmington Police Department, there wouldn't be no me. They gave me the opportunity to work and be great, to do great things and show people the right direction. I didn't have that mentality of helping the community in the way that y'all see me today, because my training and experience led me to do the job that all police officers are told to do. You're told to go out here and help the community. That's the favorite word. But it was never explained to me, how do you really want to help the community? Take people to jail, lock them up, get back out, do another one, get back out, do another one. And then one day I was in Houston More. And I was talking to this little girl, this little kid, and the mama runs by and said, get away from him, he the police. So I looked at her sideways. What she mean by that? Then it finally came to me what she meant, because there wasn't no activity, community engagement with law enforcement in the community. That's why she talked about that. That's why I need to change the way I help people. That's why I started helping everyone, everybody. No matter what your background is, no matter where you're coming from, no matter, you got arrested yesterday. If you need some advice, I'm here for you. If I take you to jail, I'm giving you advice as I'm taking you to jail. You don't need to come right there. I said, this is where we're gonna figure this out. If you wanna stop going to jail, you gotta listen to some of the words that's coming out of my mouth. And that's what they did. That's what people started doing. It might take time and time again for it to sink in, but it worked. And I started loving it because I see it in returns. And I continued on. Got the job here in Wilmington, and I started working and that's when I began to collect all my friends and people, because in law enforcement, you gotta have friends outside of officers. Brings you back to reality and keep you sane. And I started meeting a lot of folks, and I know at one point some folks at the police department didn't think I smiled ever. What Trina had. She said, you just walk down the hallway in the old police department, you never smile. Because I'm in business, I'm working. After I leave here, I smile then, but as long as I'm here, we working. But there's just a way of shielding certain things when you don't smile. I had to learn how to deal with that also. But I learned that doing this job and meeting different folks and not judging people based on what other people say about it. And that's one thing I tell the kids today. Just because you see an officer, don't judge him based on other folks' experiences. Don't judge them on what you see in the news. You judge that individual by how they treat you. And they listen. Really? That's what one kid said, really? That's how we have to look at it? Yeah. Because if somebody don't like somebody, they're gonna bring you in with them. Because they don't want to be on that ledge by themselves, so they're gonna bring partners with them, so they can stand there together. So if I don't like you, you're not gonna like me. And that's how things go. And that's what's so important to me, and that's what I try to instill in everybody I come in contact with. I get discouraged sometimes of doing all the community stuff that everyone talks about. I get discouraged because I find out that sometimes when you're doing these community things, it's not always good. It doesn't always make you happy. Believe it or not, I can say 60% of the people that I have contact with or mentored, some of them end up being victims of homicide. That's a lot of burden taken home, man. Yeah, because you knew it, you had discussions with those folks, and they still didn't fare well. You get discouraged sometimes. Miss Christie put it in their perspective. At one time, her son nephew was getting in trouble at DC Virgo. And what brought me back to reality is that when we took him, it was his birthday. Me and Jasmine, we went to Myrtle Beach. I said, hey, let me take him with us. Remember that, Jasmine? Yeah. We got in the car, we went to Myrtle Beach for his birthday. Because I want him to enjoy his birthday because his father was in prison. And while I was down there, ironically, the phone rang, his phone rang. And it was his father calling him. And he said, I'm down at Myrtle Beach with Hargrove. He said, you with who? I'm with Grove. Really? Let me speak to him. So he handed me the phone and I spoke to him and he said, Grove, thank you. I know I did some things that got me locked up and I can't be there for him, but I'm appreciative of you being in his life, attempting to steer him in the right direction. Did you know how that made me feel? Wow. So I'm back on cloud nine again. Let's get it going. Let's get it going. We gotta keep moving. We gotta keep moving. We gotta keep shaking. And I keep beating young folks And it's so important to me because a lot of these young folks I meet, a lot of them don't have father figures in their life. They don't have it. And when you're walking around, you're standing by and you're hanging out and you're seeing folks walk by and they look at you but they keep moving. But they'll come back and they look at you again, and next thing you know, they're standing beside you. Those are the ones that are looking for attention. If you don't gravitate, if you don't grab them and hold them and talk to them and have those conversations with them, you're gonna lose them. We give up on kids. Parents give up on kids too early, too soon. They give up when they get 12, 13 years old, they turn them back to the streets, and that's not fair. But I'm gonna be standing right there. That's why it was so hard to call it quits. Because those interactions are special to me, because I know I'm making an impact in this city. And when you're making those impacts, you say you want to leave, when you retire, you want to leave places better than when you came. My place is better than when I came. Regardless of what it said in the news video, I know my worth now. Because those phone calls still been coming in since August 31st. And I still answer. And if I can do, I'm doing. I'm doing. It's so important. And I say those things that we got to keep those things going. We got to get in the community and interact if we're going to save it. If we keep listening to news media, we keep listening to folks that don't have any interest in our community, we're not going to save it. And when I say don't judge folks based on what you see or read about or hear about, I'm gonna give you one example right now. And he stood up here and he's counseling me. He wasn't my friend always. Didn't nobody know that much to today, how close it was. But we judge folks based on what everybody else says. One of the biggest supporters of law enforcement today is that man right there. Whatever we need, he leads it. People didn't know that. I'm here to tell you, that's what happens. That's why we don't judge folks based off what you hear or what you see. Get to know folks, get to talk to them. Don't shine away from them. It's so important in law enforcement that we do those things to make it better. That's why I say I did leave this place in a better place. Because when we first started and with Chief Williams, that we didn't have the things that we have now. We were scraping the bottom of the barrel. We in a better place. That's why we say when we talk about fathers, everybody's a father when you go out here and patrol. Because the fathers, mothers lead a family. Your community is your family. You father and mother their community. So they're looking up to you to lead them to greatness themselves. Chief Williams is the father of the department. We look in to lead us to some type of success. And when we talk about fathers and mothers, we don't agree with everything our parents say to us now, do we? But you still love them. That's why I say about being the father of the police department, we're not going to agree with everything he says or does. But we're going to do it if it's legal and lawful. But we still have to show the love. That's what we say about the community. We're not going to agree with everything that happens in the community. As long as you're loving everybody in the community that you patrol and being part of it, everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. I know I'm a long minute, and I apologize for my speaking. But I appreciate each and every one of you for leading me to where I am today. Mike, fellow captains. I appreciate you. I appreciate each one of y'all for leading me to where I am today. My administrative assistants in the building, I appreciate y'all. Everybody, if I miss somebody, I appreciate you. Brad, thanks to my ex-partner, Scott. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be where I am today. Gene, where you at? My training officer. That's who made me what I am today. He was my training officer. He was a great training officer. Tom, I miss you. There you go, fellow captain. Chris, step in. That's Chris Paul, lieutenant right now, but one day he'll be a captain. He'll be taking my place in my captain spot. So you can give him a hand because I appreciate it. And Chris is the other one who said, I think I should be the captain for him. Correct, Chris? Thank you very much, sir. If I miss somebody, you know I appreciate each and every one of y'all, love all of y'all, but I don't want to take up the whole day, 30 minutes, because I got a lot to say, and I'll be up here all week if I want to. But I am, I'll tell you, great Lieutenant Tony, I forgot, you know, and when we talk about working in CID, violent crimes and homicides and stuff like that, I had a great team. Tuggy Lee and all those guys, and it was just great. Nesta, thank you for your time and teaching me how to shoot a gun well to do a SWAT team and to be SWAT and keep us in line for those many years. Thank you. Thank you for the job that came to us. If I miss somebody, and I'm not trying to, but I really apologize, but everybody look at me like you listen to. But I apologize, and I want to leave y'all with this because it's so important to me that when I left City County Vice of Narcotics, it was a plaque that those guys gave me to show me my worth. And I didn't understand it at that time. When they gave it to me, I just hung it on my wall and I said, oh, that's nice. And I read it every now and then. And then a few years ago, when I joined the fraternity, I realized what it meant. And it sums my career up just like that. It sums my career. And just listen to the words and you will see, because I have been working this with blood, sweat, and tears, and I literally mean that. I gave it all. Blood, sweat, and tears. And this sums it up. It's Invictus by William Ernest Henry. That's the poem that I have on my wall that way back in the day when I was working Vice of Narcotics, they gave me when I left that division. Out of the night that covers me, black is the pit from pole to pole. I think whatever gods may be for my uncomfortable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the hard shade. And yet the minutes of the years find and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master